I'm sure browsing around the internet you all have seen these cool shiny logos. I'm going to go ahead and do a tutorial on how to recreate this effect using Illustrator, so it's a vector image that can be resized without losing quality. In order to do so, we're going to first have an example here of our ogizmo.com's logo. Hope they don't mind that I use it. During this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you already know how to use the path finder and the offset path options in Illustrator. If you do not know how to do or use those options, you can see the link at the bottom of the video here. Go to vidis.com/AI_tutorials to learn how to use those options. Now go ahead and create the text that you want to use. I'm going to use Glossy for our text. Go ahead and make that bigger for you without screwing up. Alright, now as you can see in the OGizmo logo up here, we have a white layer, a shadow underneath the white layer, a shiny layer, a gradient layer, a white outline, and another shadow to go underneath it all. So we're going to use that as our template. Okay. Now, in order to offset a path, we need to create our outlines on our text. So go ahead and right-click and create outlines. Now we need to ungroup it as well because we need to make this all one object, and it can't be in a group. And you can see when you ungroup it, it obviously displays each letter on its own individual sub-layer over here in the layers palette. We don't want that, so with our Pathfinder tool, everything selected, we're going to click the far left shape mode, then hit expand. You can see that that creates its own compound path. Now we're able to offset the path and create our different layers to get the desired effect. I've already created a shortcut on my keyboard for the offset path. If you have not, just go up to Object, Path, Offset Path, and click on Preview so you can see what you're doing. 10 is a bit too much, so I'm going to bring that down to, let's say, 7 points. That looks good. Hit OK. And then to differentiate the layers, going to change the color. So we got our white layer, and we have our gradient layer. I'm going to go ahead and make that the same color as the OGizmo. Make it a gradient. And make it a vertical gradient. Let's reverse that. There we go. So we have 2 layers of our, looks like 5, 6. And we're going to go ahead and offset this path again to get our white outline layer. So offset the path. Click on Preview. 2 points looks good. Make sure you select just that layer only. Turn it white. Now we're going to go ahead and Control-C to copy that layer. If you're not familiar with paste in front and paste behind, it's Control-F and Control-B. So instead of pasting V in the middle of the screen here, we're going to Control-B as in boy to paste behind. What that does is that puts it right behind the layer that we just copied. Grab that with your arrow keys on your keyboard. You can push that off and to the right. Change that color. So go ahead and change that to a darker gray to create the shadow. Now we also have a shadow underneath our white layer. So go ahead and copy and Control-B to paste under. You can see over here it creates another layer underneath the layer that we copied. And we're going to go ahead with our arrow keys on our keyboard and push that off and to the right and give it a darker gray to create the shadow effect. Okay, now to create the glossy effect. Anytime that you use the offset path, you'll want to duplicate that layer. So select your gradient layer, copy, paste in front with Control-F to duplicate the layer. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use the ellipse tool to get the desired curve that I like for the gloss, or the glossy layer. Alright, now I'm going to select the gradient layer, and you can see how they're far apart over here. The ellipse tool that we just created is on the very top. We want those to be together, so just drag that layer down to be right on top of the gradient layer. And then using the second option in the shape modes, click on that and then hit expand. And you can see that that's now created our glossy layer. Now you can see that it goes from maroon to probably white, or a mid-gray between white and maroon. So to create that effect, we're just going to drag white down here to replace the orange. Now it should already be a vertical gradient. Let's go ahead and make sure of that. Put our white on the bottom. Now, I don't like how starch white it is, so I'm going to go ahead and change the opacity on that to kind of lighten it up, blend it in with the gradient layer underneath. I'm going to choose an opacity of 80%. Looks about right. And voila, there is your glossy logo. Now I'm going to go ahead and, because I do this a lot for my logos, I like the glossy or the reflectiveness to be on the letters itself. In order to do that, you can't use white, so we're going to change that to black. Now again, we're going to duplicate the layer by Control C, Control F to paste in front, and then I'm going to do a different path to create the glossiness. I'm going to select my pen tool and create kind of a wavy effect. Then complete the circle, or complete the path all the way back to the beginning. Now with that path selected and the top layer, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out again using our pathfinder. Make sure and expand it. Now we're going to want a black and white gradient. Always go from the color underneath to white. Oops, upside down. Reverse that. Alright. Then just go ahead and change the opacity again. Now the only bad thing is I don't like that curve, so in order to redo it, pretty easy, just copy, paste in front, grab your pen tool, create a curve that's not so dramatic, select the layer that you want to cut out, use your pathfinder to cut it, change it into a gradient, make it a vertical gradient with the white on the bottom, change your opacity of that layer, I bring it down to a 70%, and there you go, you got a glossy effect on the layers above. And you can play with that to get the look that you like. For this and other tutorials, you can always visit vidies.com/AI_tutorials.